Professor Stuckler here. Welcome back. Today, I want to share with you something I've never shared before, my advanced publishing tactics for the introduction. And so often, these tactics have been things that I've just kind of passed down in a hush-hush way. Like, hey, grad student, come here. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And you keep your cards close to your chest because you don't want other people to get the same unfair advantages that your students are getting. Well, that's all changed with this channel. With Fast Tracks, we're trying to democratize access to these inner secrets that have been passed down in the ivory towers that I've shared with my students at Harvard, Oxford, and Cambridge, and now I want to make them accessible to you. These are things you've probably never thought about before, and it's because they're just not taught. So I'm going to share two of my top secrets in their introduction that have come from my experience as both a publisher and an editor. So let's go. Number one, when your editors are looking for peer reviewers, they're going to be combing for authors in the introduction. They're going to be looking for peer reviewers who they're going to invite to review your paper in the introduction. So what does that mean? You can actually load the die that you're going to get peer reviewers who will be favorable to you. So what does that mean? If you're really antagonistic to peer reviewers in the introduction when you're talking about the gap section, by the way, don't know the right structure for the introduction, you need to go watch our introduction mastery video. That's going to give you the foundations of it. It's one of the hardest sections to write. So when you're talking about the gap in your research in this section, if you go through and you really poo-poo and tarnish one of these authors, well, odds are publisher is going to be inviting that person to review your paper, who is not going to be a very happy camper and is probably going to want to kill your paper just because he or she feels a little bit offended by what you wrote, even if it's accurate. So be aware of that, because editors are having a lot of time finding people to review papers. So put yourself in their shoes for a second and think, I'm looking at a paper for the first time. Where am I going to find peer reviewers? And that is, voila, in the introduction. It's the first place that they're going to look. It's the first place the citations are. Second advanced tactic. I think of this a little bit like a play, in a way that if there is a knife introduced in the first act of a play, guarantee you somebody is getting stabbed in the third act. What does this mean for you? You really want to kind of drop the seeds of your hypothesis and your findings in the way that you carve out the gap to make sure that when your readers finally come to the denouement, the big conclusion of the paper, the findings, it's in clear contact with the introduction and the gap. This is one of the big reasons why you want to write the introduction last, so that you can kind of suture everything up nicely, that you know what your findings are going to be, so that you're not introducing the gap in a way in the introduction that you can't actually deliver the goods later on. Again, I strongly recommend writing the introduction at the very end, because you'll know, well, do I need to have a knife in the introduction? Do I need to have a gun? Do I need to have a club or something else? You just won't really know that until you have your results written up and your key conclusions, to be able to craft that effectively so everything's neat and tidy and avoids your reviewers getting confused. So that's my tactic number two. You need to find your knife and make that very clear so that everything's lining up with your contribution, and that way your readers and reviewers are not going to get lost and you're going to be more likely to get accepted. Guys, we have a range of advanced publishing mastery tactics like these that I've never shared before. I'm lifting the lid on them, and if you want more content like this, head straight to my Facebook group where we can be in direct contact through the direct messages. We roll up our sleeves, we work together, and I'll share with you my other secret tips on writing winning discussions, results sections, and actually crafting research questions, winning grant funding, all the essential things that you need to do as a researcher, but you probably just weren't taught. So guys, look forward to seeing you there, and you're not going to want to miss this next video on our publishing system that I've got for you.